Hey everybody, welcome to the last module of history. We're going to start this lecture with Boom, the Nation at Risk. This is an original copy of the report. It was published in 1983 by the National Commission on Educational Excellence, which was commissioned by Ronald Reagan. It marked the beginning of the excellence movement. It's very important that you understand the social context in which this was written. If you've listened to me read the introduction, you've already heard this, but if not, this was written in the early 80s, published in 83. The economy at that time was pretty much in the toilet. People were really afraid of Japan actually buying most of the important parts of the United States. We were in the last throes of the Cold War with Russia. It was a pretty scary time for a lot of people. And in that social context, this Nation Risk Report came out. Okay, in it, they recommended several things. They had very specific recommendations, and it's also important to know who wrote this report. Okay, this was written by a big council of leading educators. You know, presidents of university, deans of various colleges. I don't believe there were any actual K-12 teachers on it, but everyone on here was an educator in some way. Okay, the curricular recommendations included, and you do have to know these: 4 years of English, 3 years of math, science, and social studies, half a year of computer science, and if you were college bound, you were supposed to take 2 years of a foreign language. Okay, for most of you, those don't sound like any big deal. But at the time, they were a huge change. I graduated the year before this came out in 1982, and taking all those classes and mandating it was unheard of. Although I did take 4 years of math, science, English, and history, a lot of my cohort didn't. I remember we had to take biology. I think that was it. So we probably had to take 9th grade. Whatever we took in 9th grade, and biology. We did have to take 4 years of English. We had to take government and U.S. history. So our requirements were a lot less than that. It also advocated for increasing the number of hours in the school day and the number of days in the school year. These are very specific, measurable goals, and they were adopted by a lot of the nation. The problem with the Nation at Risk report is that it blamed our economic downturn on our failing school system, but then the recommendations for curriculum were about time. You had to have 4 years of English, 3 years of science, 3 years of math. It didn't say you had to learn more. It just said you had to spend time doing it. Okay, so what happened in schools that did not make their curriculum more rigorous, which was most of them, Algebra 1, for those people who were not, very strong in math, became Algebra A and Algebra B. Now you got 2 years of math credit, but you're still not learning any more than the 1 year of Algebra 1. So although the intent was to greatly strengthen the rigor, the method in which they used fell a little bit short. Then, after Reagan came Bush 1, George Bush. He wanted to be the education president and knew that education was left to the states to run. So he convened the National Governors Association and said to them, hey guys, we need to improve education and we want you to do it because it's your job. Well, ironically, the president of the National Governors Association back in this would have been between 1988 and 92, was the governor from Arkansas, Bill Clinton. Okay, so Bush 1 turns to Clinton and says, look, I want you to make national education policy. Well, Clinton runs the National Governors Association, and the 50 governors come up with a totally different way to reform education. Okay, they came up with 8 goals, and I'll read them really fast. I know they're on Blackboard. The 8 goals all start with by the year 2000. Okay, so goal 1: by the year 2000, all children in America will start school ready to learn. Okay, What's up with that, man? They're going to start school ready to learn. Who's responsible for that? Can the federal government in any way make sure kids are going to come to school ready to learn? That's primarily a parental role. Kids can go to Head Start and that kind of stuff in preschool, but the vast majority of kids in the country do not. Goal number 2, school completion. By the year 2000, the high school graduation rate will increase to 90%. Okay? High school graduation rate in this document is not defined. It could be those who start secondary school, which is 7th grade, and graduate. You can use those two numbers to calculate the percentage. It could be 9th grade. If you have a 4-year high school, it could be 10th grade. It could extend beyond 12th grade to, by the time you're 20, do you have a GED or a high school diploma? So once again, that's a tough goal to measure. Goal 3 says, by the year 2000, all students will leave grades 4, 8, and 12 having demonstrated competency over challenging subject matter, including, and then it lists a whole mess of stuff. And every school in America will ensure that all students learn to use their minds well. And that they're productive for our nation's modern economy. Okay. Goal 4 says by the year 2000, the nation's teaching force will have access to programs for continued improvement of their professional skills. Okay. The key word in that goal is access. Okay. They're going to have access to professional development. It doesn't say you're going to teach better. It just says you'll have access to these programs. My favorite is number 5. By the year 2000, the United States will be first in the world in mathematics and science achievement. By what measure? Okay, first in the world depends on all the other countries too. It doesn't just say straight out, our kids are going to be better. They're going to be able to master the rudimentaries of physics, chemistry, and biology. Goal 6 is adult literacy and lifelong learning. It says, by the year 2000, every adult American will be literate and will possess the knowledge and skills necessary to compete in the global economy and exercise the rights and responsibilities of citizenship. Okay? Every adult American is going to be literate? How is that going to happen? Are you going to mandate night school for illiterate Americans? The 7th one is, by the year 2000, every school in the United States will be free of drugs, violence, and the unauthorized presence of firearms and tobacco. And will offer a disciplined environment conducive of learning. You can see how that turned out. This was well before, Sandy Hook, which just happened a few months ago, and the other school shootings. And lastly, by the year 2000, every school will promote partnerships that will increase parental involvement and participation in promoting the social, emotional, and academic growth of children. Okay, so go parents. Okay. And I hate to be so cynical about the goals in Goals 2000, but these goals are very generic, and how can you argue against them? Who's going to argue against wanting to be number 1 in math and science? You can't go out there and win an election saying, oh, I want to be number 2, maybe number 6. That's good enough for me. You can't say, well, it's okay for kids to come to school not ready to learn, or that, it's okay if some kids don't graduate. We need ditch diggers. Okay. So the goals that were written by the 50 governors, by professional politicians, differ vastly from the goals written by educators. The goals written by educators were very specific and measurable. The goals written by the politicians were like wrapping yourself in, grandmas and apple pies. Who's going to argue against that? Now, the interesting thing in here is these were originally passed, the Goals 2000 thing, as America 2000 under the Bush administration. Well, Bush was only a one-term president. Clinton gets elected, but he just spent the last couple of years crafting Bush's education plan. So basically, when he assumed the presidency, all he did was, change the title of the act and call it Goals 2000 instead of America 2000, because he had just spent all that time. So Bush 1 and Clinton pretty much had the same educational agenda. That's it. I'm going to make another video for No Child Left Behind. Have a great day. Bye.